Well, pretty lucky. Made a pretty good decision 42 years ago. And 43 years ago. Well, you can see who's going to be running the state. No question about that. But when Patricia Brentano is the First Lady, you have the kindest, warmest, biggest heart in the entire state of New Jersey. Patricia Brentano. And to Brent, my son, my daughter Abby, and her fiance Ben, I love you. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for being here and being with me. So today, with great humility, I announce that I will seek the nomination of my Republican Party to run for the office of Governor of the state of New Jersey. Thank you. Thank you. I've decided to run for many reasons, but first and foremost is to bring back balanced public policy to Trenton. Policies that reflect the views of the majority of our citizens. As we all know, 80% of New Jerseyans are in the middle of the political spectrum, not extremists. Therefore, New Jersey government should represent the will of the majority. In order to have balance, we need two political parties making decisions in Trenton. Today, we have one. The Democratic Party is in charge of the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. In order to bring back balance in Trenton, we need to elect a Republican governor. That's me. And when that happens, when I'm elected, the Democrats will have to negotiate and compromise, or I will take out my veto pen and politely return it to them for reconsideration. That's a promise. Here's another promise: to stop our neighbors and our friends from leaving New Jersey. Ending our title as the #1 exit state in the nation. But we must give them a reason to stay. And we know why they leave. They can't afford it. That has to change. It must be affordable to live in the state of New Jersey. So here comes the tough part. How do we win? How does a Republican win again in New Jersey? Here it goes. Hateful rhetoric and/or calling Governor Murphy or President Biden names is not a path to victory. Hate is not a political strategy. It actually works in reverse. And thoughtful voters, the voters we need, will tell you they're not crazy about Governor Murphy or the Democratic legislature, but they don't quite trust us, the Republicans. The history of my Republican Party has always been defined by humility and service to our country. virtues and concepts that I was proud of. Our leaders, whether it was President Eisenhower, President Reagan, Bush 41 or 43, they all demonstrated these important values, and they deeply believed in the traditional values of our party. The voters we need in order to win no longer view our party in that light. The view of our grand old party has changed, and as a result, we've been losing election after election after election. We have always been the party of law and order, but if we want to continue to be the party of law and order, we cannot make excuses for the rioters on January 6th who were hitting police officers over the head with sticks. If we are the party of law and order, then we cannot reject 60 federal court decisions that determined the outcome of the presidential election was legitimate. Respecting the courts is part of being the party of law and order. If anyone is going to make excuses for January 6th or reject the decisions of our federal court judges, then we as Republicans must call them out, even if it's Donald Trump. Even if it's Donald Trump. Many consultants, experts, and even some well-meaning friends say you can't talk about Donald Trump if you want to win a primary. Really? What do you think the moderate Democrats, independents, and some Republicans are talking about? It ain't the weather. They are deciding whether we are the party of smaller government, lower taxes, and law and order, or are we only the party of one person? They want to know the answer to that question. Here's my answer. Our values and our history is much greater than one individual. I will always stand for the traditional values of the Republican Party. And let me repeat what those values are. Smaller and more efficient government, law and order, and lower taxes. So New Jersey, you can vote for me. I will make you proud, and I will bring back balance to Trenton. Thank you. So let's stop losing elections. Let's give thoughtful voters a reason to support us. The victories for the Democrats were never based on widespread support for their policies. Many of those policies, even the Democrats don't like. And let me further state that I understand the deep frustration that many people feel about government. And I understand why citizens are angry and frustrated with government. I see it every day when I try to help constituents. But let me be clear. Hateful rhetoric will never lower one tax, will never send more criminals to jail, will not change our bail system, will not give more support to our police, will not make it easier to open or start a business in New Jersey, will not control overdevelopment. Hateful rhetoric will not stop $1 billion of political spending by my friends in Trenton, and it certainly won't make your experience in motor vehicles any more pleasant. And hateful rhetoric is a threat to our democracy and a terrible, terrible message to our children. A terrible, terrible message to our children. Here are some of the examples why one-party rule in Trenton does not reflect the will of the majority, and why you want me holding that veto pen. The extreme wing of the Democratic Party was able to pass legislation that made police officers criminals if they told the parents of a 12-year-old that was smoking marijuana or drinking beer. The police officer was a criminal under that law, and the law prevented the police from doing anything when they saw that activity. Here's a scary one for you. The Democratic majority will not take a position on a case that's pending in the Superior Court that would take away your right to send your child to the local neighborhood school. I know it's been quiet. It shouldn't be quiet. The Democrats must stand up, pass a constitutional amendment, and say, when you buy a house in a neighborhood, you can go to your local school. That is under threat in Trenton. I'm telling you, that is a threat. The Democrats refused to pass stronger penalties against criminals who steal cars, burglarize your house. Prosecutors and police officers are frustrated. Our residents are afraid. And there is no consequences to criminals in New Jersey today. As governor, I will not make excuses for criminals, but I will sign minimum mandatory jail legislation every single time. One-party rule in Trenton has turned over all the housing decisions on where to build and how many to build to the courts. A terrible public policy that's costing municipalities millions and causing overdevelopment. I will not allow that to continue, period. One-party rule created an offshore wind energy plan, which was proven to be inefficient, expensive, and wildly unpopular. And most important, it was never brought to the legislature for a vote. There was no transparency and no ability for people to testify against or for the plan. That has to stop. Also, during a pandemic, I promise you that I will always follow the science, not some internet article somewhere out in outer space. But I will always allow the public to be heard. During the recent pandemic, there was no opportunity to listen to the public and how they felt. That was wrong. But I assure you, I will always follow the science and follow the expertise of medical doctors. Always. Never a doubt, never a question. I'll do that. And once again, I promise you, when the public interacts with our state offices, they will get the respect and efficient service they deserve, and maybe I'll throw in a couple smiles. I will make sure that happens as well. I will never demean, embarrass, or ridicule those with differences of opinion, including those across the aisle. And I don't believe that courteous, respectful, or civility should ever be considered old-fashioned. We must restore civility and decorum to our work in government at all levels. During the next 2 years, the campaign for the nomination of my Republican Party, I will prove that I am the most qualified and most electable Republican for the office of governor. I do not fear speaking out against those who dwell in hate and ridicule. I have no fear of those who act like out-of-control high school bullies on social media. You can be assured that I will indicate to everyone that open dialogue is fair. Hateful rhetoric is not. So when I apply for this job, you're my employer. You're going to know what my resume is. You want to know what my experience is. Here it is. As an urban councilman in Plainfield for 7 years, I saw up close what urban communities need. 18 years I served in the state assembly and made a few friends on both sides of the aisle, and I think I know the process pretty well. And for those of you, and we're going to hear this, who say I'm not Republican enough, and you know people say that. When I was in the assembly, every Republican member, and you know this, Tony, every Republican member from every part of this state elected me as their leader for a decade. That may even include a former member who might run against me. And as the leader, I made sure we ended the estate tax, placed a cap on spending on local government, and led the fight for responsible state budgets. And now, as a member of the Senate, I am continuing my fight for the traditional values of the Republican Party. Now, maybe it's an old-fashioned concept, but I believe it's extremely important to know the experience of the applicant. And for those potential Republicans who are running against me, who promise our Republican voters that you will move this state far to the political right, not only you can't do it, but you will lose the election. And the only thing that will change is that Democrats will become more extreme. Some ask if I'm tough enough for the job, because I talk about civility and I talk about kindness and respect. Well, I got a lot of Jersey DNA. My mom is from Newark, went to Southside High School, Newark DNA. My father's from Plainfield, Plainfield High School, Plainfield DNA. And most people know what double Jersey DNA means. It means I can fight pretty good, and I've been tested many times. I also understand that many people never can see government do anything good, and I can understand that. But I want to tell you a couple instances, in my judgment, with legislation that I was very proud to sponsor, did make some change. A few years ago, after many years of trying, I passed a bill called Janet's Law. This law placed a defibrillator in every school in New Jersey. Janet was a young girl who passed away as a result of a cardiac event. I got a call, I remember it like it was yesterday, from the Warren Township Board of Education and said, Assemblyman, can you come up tonight? We'd like you to be here. We're going to have something related to Janet's Law. I walked in. There were Janet's parents, the Zelinskys, who actually had contacted me to pass the law. Then there was another couple. This was a couple whose child in the same township had a cardiac event and was saved because there was a defibrillator there. They wanted parents, Janet's parents, to meet these parents, and they wanted to thank everyone in Trenton for passing a law that saved lives. So there are times in Trenton where we do the right thing. After September 11th, fortunately, there were a number of entities that created centers for grief and loss. Recently, I was proud to pass a law that required, in health classes, some discussion and some teaching about grief and loss. If we have a mental health crisis in this country, and I believe we do, this is a small step forward to address this serious issue that we've seen over and over again. And let me explain why this bill came to my attention. I was touring both Imagine and Good Grief, which are centers for loss. And there was this 9-year-old girl who told me that she was asked to draw a picture of her family for her class. She drew a picture of her family and she included her brother. Her brother had passed away. The teacher failed her. I don't blame the teacher. I blame the fact that we haven't talked about grief and loss. Grief and loss, for those of you who've lost friends, family, siblings, it is an important subject that we address in the state and in this nation. It is the first law in the nation to teach grief and loss in the schools, and I'm very proud of it. And finally, I was at dinner one night, a fellow named Frank, 60-year-old man, said to me, I have prostate cancer, but the insurance company won't give me the drug, and I remember the drug, it was Prevenge, even though all my doctors want it. Well, I was happy to take on that fight. We took on that fight. We got the insurance company to pay for Prevenge. They didn't want to pay because it was too expensive, and Frank lived a long time because the insurance company was forced to do what was right. I will always stand with you. I was always stand with the consumer when it comes to fighting for what you deserve. Have to talk about the background, because not only do people want to know about your job, they want to know about your upbringing. Growing up in Plainfield, where's John Campbell? Love you, man. Thanks for being here. Growing up in Plainfield, my dad had a store, stationery store called Lazar's. It sold candy and newspapers up front and office supplies in the back. My father worked up front. My mom worked in the back. They were full partners. They were also full partners at home. Well, not exactly. My mother ran what was home, and I think she also ran the store. The store was open 7 days a week. My dad was there 7 days a week, and the store was open at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. I never heard my dad complain, never blamed the government, never said a bad word about anybody, just worked hard and got stuff done. That is the model for your next governor in the state of New Jersey. And here is, you're going to need evidence why I can win. Told you about the background, told you about my experience. Now I'm going to tell you why I can win. I won a legislative district with 8,000 more Democrats than Republicans, a district that Biden won by 17 points, and I was recently reelected by 7 percentage points. At the same, thank you. At the same time, where's the mayor? Oh, yeah. At the same time, we won both Summit and Westfield, and we have the mayor of Summit, Elizabeth Fagan, and just in case you question my facts, and Councilman Boyer. So if we as Republicans have the right message, Democrats and independents will vote for us, and there is evidence of that in my district and in my towns. And let me be very clear on this issue, very, very clear. I believe that women should have control over their bodies and their reproductive systems. I am a pro-choice Republican, and I'm not scared to say it. Not scared to say it. So, I need you to tell your friends, your co-workers, your family, no matter what party they are, but let's start with the Republicans. And here's what we're going to do. Can I borrow a hat? I got a hat? Here, thanks. Attorney General. Okay. I need you to tell your neighbors the following. If you want to win, Bramnick, if you want to win, and if you really, really, really want to win, vote Bramnick. God bless everybody. Thanks so much.